Hello, students. Today we are going to discuss, or I am going to present to you, very important information. Phases of the muscle contraction. Muscle contraction, phases of the muscle contraction. And what you need to understand regarding the phases of the muscle contraction is the relationship between the force of your muscle and the force of gravity. I mean, that's really what it's all about. And what happens to the length of the muscle during these phases. Really simple information to grasp, but why is it relevant? It's relevant because hopefully it will inspire you to improve your technique, understanding that as soon as you pick that object up, and as soon as gravity is acting on that object while it's in your hand, then all of that time that it's in your hand is going to be relevant and beneficial to musculoskeletal adaptation. And with that information, you can use it to your advantage. You don't have a lot of time to waste. You don't have any time to waste. So every time you set your mind to training, everything that you do should be working towards that adaptation, right? Stronger, faster, bigger, whatever it happens to be. Okay, so we're going to talk about the three phases of the muscle contraction, the first one being the concentric phase of the muscle contraction. Now you can see here, take a little snapshot of the chart that I wrote up. What we're talking about is we're completing this sentence or this statement, right? So we start with, in the concentric phase of the muscle contraction, the force of your muscle, now we fill in the blank here, is greater than, that's the greater than symbol, the force of gravity. So in the concentric phase of the muscle contraction, the force of your muscle is greater than the force of gravity. What's happening to the length of the muscle in that phase is it is shortening. And so what does that look like for, let's use the bicep, dumbbell bicep curl as an example. What does that look like? So you can see as I lift the weight, as I lift the dumbbell away from the ground or away from the force of gravity, it's clear that the force of my muscle is greater than the force of gravity because I'm moving away from it. And even though my biceps are in terrible shape right now, I'm sure you can imagine that the bicep starts to consolidate, right? That's why we do the bicep pose. It's not here, it's here. And the muscle is shortening, and it actually, at some point in my life, had some shape where you could actually see excuse me, that the muscle was shorter than it is in its resting phase. Okay. Now, in the eccentric phase of the muscle contraction, using the same statement, the force of your muscle is now less than the force of gravity. Force of your muscle is less than the force of gravity. So what's happening to the tissue, the muscle, in that phase is it's lengthening. And that looks like this. So as you can see, as I return the dumbbell back to the starting position, it's still under my control, right? I'm not using the tricep to extend the elbow. It's still the biceps, and it's a reduction in the force of the bicep in a controlled manner, returning me to that start position. So it's still a muscle contraction of the biceps, but it's the eccentric phase of the muscle contraction because I am allowing the force of my muscle to be less than the force of gravity. And as you can see, the muscle is lengthening in that phase, still under stress. And the final phase is isometric. And in the isometric phase of the muscle contraction, the force of your muscle is equal to the force of gravity. And the length of the muscle in that phase is constant. There is no change in the length of the muscle, and that would look like this. So isometric is an equilibrium between the force of your muscle and the force of gravity. There is no movement. And so the value in all of this is you are no longer looking at your training as performing these exercises, right? Like Simon says, you understand that any movement you take involves a contraction of the muscle. And depending on the relationship between the force of your muscle and the force of gravity, right? Whatever that relationship is, you are in a different phase of the muscle contraction, but it's all relevant to musculoskeletal adaptation. Really interesting stuff, right? All you were doing it before, but now with a shift in perspective and understanding, hopefully that can add some depth to your strength training. All right, students, if you have any questions, of course, reach out to me. We are nearing the end of the semester, and you have one project and one project only, which is a summary of the semester. I will be sending you more details in terms of what I need to see in that short 1 to 2 page write-up. I will be presenting you with more information throughout this week for your future use, right? You're going to have access to this. I'm not taking this information down. If you have any questions, please ask. If you have any input, I'm always interested in hearing it, and I am available to you even after this semester ends. I do want you to know that. All right, students, happy training. Don't stop. Keep going, and I'll talk to you soon.